Today we're going to be talking about the absolute dumpster fire of a trade that was the Rudy Gobert to the Minnesota Timberwolves trade. Now, at the time of the trade, a lot of people knew that Minnesota probably gave up too much to get him, but they really didn't know just how bad it is and how bad it could get. And basically in this video, I'm going to be breaking down the entire trade and just basically talking about what we learned since the trade has been done and up to this point in the current season, and how this trade can go from really bad to maybe like almost franchise-endingly bad for the next foreseeable future. Like, it could get really, really bad very, very fast for the Timberwolves, especially if they are not extremely careful with the roster decisions and just the moves in general that they do make in the coming future, probably this offseason coming up. Because right now, the Timberwolves, it is blowing up in their face, but if they make a few wrong decisions, or their front office just remains kind of making these mistakes over and over again and setting the team back, it could blow up even worse, to the point to where jobs are going to be lost. Like, people are going to get fired if they're not already, due to how much it's not looking like this Rudy Gobert trade is going to work out. And the reason I think they're going to get a lot of firings out of this, because there's almost no way, no matter what the Timberwolves do, that they can really get out of this mess that they created for them. They made their bed, now they have to lay in it. But before we get into what I think their future is going to look like, let's get into the entire trade itself. The original OG trade, to start it off, was the Timberwolves got Rudy Gobert, while the Utah Jazz would get Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverley, Bellarmino, Walker Kessler, who was a 22nd overall pick in the 2022 draft, Jarrett Vanderbilt, and 5 first-round picks. Now, I guess you can debate and say it was 4 first-round picks plus a 2026 pick swap, but I'm just going to go and call it 5 first-round picks because they control that pick as well. So I do think for sure this trade, they gave up way too much to get Rudy Gobert. Now, that is easier to say now in hindsight, because hindsight is 2020, and Rudy Gobert, like, he was a very valuable player. To get him, no matter what, you were going to have to give up a lot, because Rudy Gobert, in the 9 seasons with the Utah Jazz, I mean, he was a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year and a 6-time All-Star. He was a very, very good player. So to get anyone at that level of Rudy Gobert, you're going to have to give up a lot. But even for how good Rudy was with the Jazz in those 9 seasons, he still probably was not even close to being worth what they gave up. Now, I understand the Timberwolves wanted to win right now, but I don't think, even if it would have worked out perfectly and everything else would have been fine, I still don't think this team has enough talent to win a championship how it is. And now you add on top of the fact that this team is probably one of the worst together working rosters in the entire NBA, and now you have a recipe for disaster. Because look, this team, although it is talented, I mean, D'Angelo Russell's at his best an all-star level point guard. Anthony Edwards has superstar potential if he can keep developing. Now, he hasn't taken the step people were expecting this year, but he has shown that he has that superstar potential. Karl-Anthony Towns could be a top 5 center one day if he keeps developing and can just get a little bit better in some areas and get a little bit more consistent. And then Rudy Gobert, I mean, up until this year, is one of the best shot blocking, rebounding centers in the entire NBA, if not the best rim protecting center in the entire league. So this team has tons of talent on it. The problem is it just does not fit together at all, because the chemistry isn't there, because they just all got there and they traded so many players away, but then also because, I mean, it just doesn't fluently work together no matter what. You have 2 bigs in Cat and Rudy, who, like I said, although very good at what they do, they don't complement each other at all. Karl-Anthony Towns is a very much offensive-minded center, and nobody has ever accused Karl-Anthony Towns of being good on defense. So him going to power forward, playing against more competent ball handlers at the 4 position, and having to guard the perimeter more while being a slower type player is not ideal for someone like Karl-Anthony Towns. And then although Rudy Gobert is an elite rim protector, he is far from a good perimeter defender, and he has been played off of games a lot of times, or played off the court in games, due to his lack of ability to guard the perimeter. And Rudy Gobert and Karl-Anthony Towns having 2 bigs playing your center and power forward positions, neither of which can guard the perimeter, causes huge problems, which is a big reason to why they give up the 5th highest 3-point percentage to teams when they play them at 36.7%, which is very, very high. It's the 5th worst in the entire NBA, due to the fact that they just cannot guard the perimeter at an effective rate, because 2 of their players in their starting lineup that get significant minutes have almost 0% chance of staying in front of guys who are competent with the ball. ball. So anytime there's a switch, they're screwed. Anytime they're even guarding a power forward or center that can really extend the floor and is okay at dribbling the ball, they're going to be in trouble, and that is a big problem on a team that has really championship aspirations going into this season. And then also another just weird problem that this team has is the fact that they can't rebound the ball, which is just insane to me, because like in your head you would think having Cat and Rudy, one of the better rebounders in the league up to this point, you would be able to rebound the ball, but you just can't, because Cat's not a powerful guy. Like, he could be, but he doesn't play like that. He doesn't bang in the paint, so he's not going to be a great rebounder. And then Rudy Gobert, although still giving you around 12 rebounds a game, just isn't enough to make up the difference. So whatever their rebounding problem is, if it's an effort problem, if it's just a not boxing out problem, I don't know what it is, but they have to get that under control. You cannot have a lineup starting basically 2 centers and being this bad at rebounding. Like, they are at the bottom of the league in the entire when it comes to rebounds per game. So they have to get that fixed as well, and that's probably just an effort issue, honestly. And another way this roster just does not fit together is D'Angelo Russell and Anthony Edwards don't work together at all. Neither one of them are ever going to be able to strive while the other one's on the court. D'Angelo Russell is a ball-dominant scoring guard at his prime. Like, that's what he does. He's a scorer. Now, yes, he can pass the ball. He can play point guard. But when he is at his best is when he is just able to have a green light and score the ball. It just so happens Anthony Edwards is the exact same way. Anthony Edwards is at his best when he goes gets a bucket, and the Minnesota Timberwolves are always going to rather Anthony Edwards handle the ball because he has a higher ceiling, he's younger, and they want to develop him, and he's debatably also a better player. So I think that them two are never going to work together, and you have to trade D'Angelo Russell if you ever want this team to have any sort of success. And the trading D'Angelo Russell is probably your best move before the trade deadline this season, for a reason that I'll be talking about a little bit later in this video. But I just don't think them two as a backcourt duo are ever going to work that good together. I think if you have Anthony Edwards, you need more of a true point guard type guy as your point guard on that roster, and that's exactly what kind of Patrick Beverley was. Now, although he wasn't a great passer, he didn't have to score, and that's exactly what Patrick Beverley was, and that's why the team worked so much better last year. But unfortunately, they traded Patrick Beverley away in this trade. But now, even moving on to the Utah Jazz side of things, to see why it's even worse for the Minnesota Timberwolves, because Malik Beasley, okay, he's been the same, but then they traded Patrick Beverley, who they got in a trade for Tellen Harden-Tucker, who's been very solid as well. He's another young guy. That's kind of like the footnotes of the trade so far. But the biggest just like facepalm moment of this entire trade, in my opinion, is the fact that the Minnesota Timberwolves traded Walker Kessler for basically an older, way more expensive version of himself. Because Walker Kessler this year, when you look at their per 36 minutes, is having a better season. Now, Kessler's not putting up the same numbers because Kessler isn't getting the same amount of minutes, but a per 36, for those of you who don't know, is pretty much what their stats would be if they were getting 36 minutes a game, and Kessler's stats are significantly better in very important spots, as he's averaging 2 more blocks a game. He's been way more efficient than Rudy Gobert this season, and by the way, he's 9 years younger and $161 million cheaper. So that is a ginormous difference, and really Walker Kessler is giving you the exact same thing. So they basically traded younger, cheaper Rudy Gobert for older, vastly more expensive, and debatably worse Rudy Gobert. Like, that part of the trade is just horrible. Like, that is awful. They could have not made the trade, kept their chemistry, kept all the players that made them what they were last year, while adding exactly what Rudy Gobert would give you through the draft, just for a lot cheaper and a lot younger with a better future. And then also another thing that just hurts, Jarrett Vanderbilt's having the best year of his career. Jarrett Vanderbilt's still a very young guy, and he has made strides in his game, as he's always been a very good defender on the perimeter, and that's exactly what he's been, a very active, very good defender, athletic guy who can also slash a little bit. But his three-point shooting, although not good this year, has taken a ginormous leap. It is at 30% from the three, which is a vast improvement over what it was in years prior with the Minnesota Timberwolves, and that has to hurt, because you can never ask for enough 3-and-D high-effort guys like Vanderbilt is for the Utah Jazz, and he has been very good with them so far. And then another very bad thing is that 2022 pick could easily be a top 10 pick this year. There's no guarantee by any means Minnesota makes the playoffs, and right now it would be in the 11th pick. So if things go wrong, or if a guy gets injured, or just a bad stretch of games happen, it could easily become a top 10, top 5 pick by the end of this year. So the Timberwolves have to hope and pray that they didn't give up Walker Kessler, their 22nd pick, debatably better than Rudy, tons of young guys, plus a top 10 pick, plus all your picks in the future as well. Like, that's going to hurt a lot. But then where I think this trade probably hurts the worst is what the future projects to be going forward. At best, right now, the Timberwolves are a second-round exit team, and that is at their ceiling, in my opinion. I don't think they're going to get that. But at their absolute ceiling, if they learn how to play together, if everything works out, no injuries, no nothing like that, they're a second-round exit team. They can't make the finals, I don't think. I don't think they can make the conference finals. Second round is their absolute ceiling, depending who they would play in the first round. And things then get worse after the season ends, because D'Angelo Russell, after this year, is an unrestricted free agent. And I don't think D'Lo, seeing what this team is made out of, seeing that the lack of future that they have, and on top of that, all the money that is tied into Cat, Rudy Gobert, and probably Anthony Edwards once he gets his extension, he's not going to be able to get the money he wants. So in all likelihood, D'Lo is going to walk away from the Timberwolves unless he takes a discount or just wants to stay there for some reason. If he doesn't have an attachment to the city or the players on the roster at a high level, he is going to leave them in free agency, and that's why I think it's very important to trade D'Lo, because he still has a name value. He still has value to his name, and if you trade him, you might be able to get a first for him. You might be able to get some of the draft capital back. You might be able to get some young guys, some better role players to make your team work better as a whole. But I do think D'Lo getting traded is a must at this trade deadline, because he's not making that much better. I think he would free up a lot of room for Anthony Edwards to work a lot more, and he'd probably look a lot better as well. And I just think the team would be much better off if they traded D'Angelo Russell than letting him walk at the end of this year. And now, even looking at the contract and the money situation, this is where it gets very scary for Timberwolves fans, because Karl Anthony Towns just signed a 4-year, $214 million max extension. And that is wrapped up around, I would say, 30% of their cap space, at least according to this website that I'm looking at right now. And then you also look at Rudy Gobert, who is also on a massive $161 million left on his contract. That is 70% of their cap space for the foreseeable future, wrapped up in a very dysfunctional front court right now that has not proven it can win games. And then Anthony Edwards hasn't even got his rookie extension yet. And by the way, he is probably eligible for a 5-year, $195 million max contract. Now, I don't think he is going to get that, and there is a chance that he does get that huge max contract as a rookie extension, but I don't think that's what he's going to get. He's probably going to get something very close, and he is going to get a bag no matter what. So that is so much year cap space wrapped up in just 3 players. And by the way, that core of 3 players haven't even came close to showing you they can win games at a high level and be a contending level team. So is that really a future you want? Because there's no chance you trade Rudy Gobert with that massive contract, and you're not going to get anything close to the value you traded away for him. So you're probably not going to be able to trade Rudy Gobert. Karl Anthony Towns is on a massive contract. Now, you could maybe trade Cat, but you don't want to do that. I mean, Cat's still, 27, and he's a very high-level center. Now, you might trade him if the right offer comes around, but that's still a very big contract, and it's going to be kind of hard to move him as well. And Anthony Edwards, you're not trading him. That's the future of your franchise, and your future is almost looking very, very bleak, because what do? If you can't trade Rudy, you don't want to trade Cat, and you're not going to trade Anthony Edwards, and D'Angelo Russell is going to leave you, and you have no future first-round picks to build off of, and your money is all wrapped up in 3 players. What do? How do you build that team? Because you can't trade you can't trade any of it. You're just in a very, very bad situation, and I think this team is going to be very middle of the road for the vast foreseeable future, unless something miracle happens and they learn to work together or something like that, or if Anthony Edwards takes a massive step, something like that. But unless that happens, this team has a very, very unfortunate future ahead of them, and I don't see what they do at all. And I just don't know what to say anymore for that, besides their future just has a very low projection, in my opinion. But that's basically all I wanted to say in this video. So comment below, do you agree with me? Do you think that the Timberwolves can turn it around? Do you think they're going to be better this season? What do you think their ceiling is? What do you think they should do going forward? I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. If you did like the video, hit the like button and subscribe button. I mean the absolute word to me. And I hope you have a blessed day. God bless you. So you have a blessed day. All glory to God. See you in the next video. Goodbye. Boo. Blah.